I recently redid my whole gaming setup, so when FlexiSpot reached out asking me to try out their E7 Pro standing desk, I wasn't keen on tearing down the brand new setup. Instead, I decided it would be the perfect opportunity to upgrade my wife's desk in her PC setup. And here it is. She bought this desk off Amazon less than a year ago, and at the time she was on a tight budget, so it wasn't very expensive. And as you can imagine, it's not built the best. For starters, the frame isn't super sturdy, the desktop is incredibly thin, plus the frame outlines the whole desk, making it extremely difficult to mount any accessories to it. And its overall size isn't very ideal for more than a PC, a monitor, and a PS5 Slim. It does have drawers for storage and overhead cabinets. Oh, and this strip of LED lighting. It's not a bad desk per se, but we can do better. FlexiSpot let me select their E7L Pro, which is the L-shaped version in the E7 line. They provided me some options, so I requested the 71 by 47 inch desktop in bamboo, which consists of two 48 by 24 inch slabs shipped in the same packaging, so the box was pretty heavy. But it was nothing compared to the frame. The frame is so huge and dense, they ship it in two separate boxes and each weighs a lot. Before lifting these boxes, remember rule number 18, limber up. Inside the box marked 1 of 2, you'll find a somewhat useful assembly manual, some lighter boxes with cables, the keypad, and the control box, as well as the 3 legs and some hardware. In box number 2, you'll find baffles, short supporting beams, all 3 feet separately packaged, and a long supporting beam. Real quick while I open up these white boxes, I just mentioned the assembly manual is only somewhat helpful. Well, that's because it barely includes any instructional words, but mostly illustrations. There's no mention of how you fasten the 2 desk pieces together, and not all the screw holes on the supporting beams line up with the holes in the desktop. So to fill in these gaps, I referenced an assembly video made by FlexiSpot. I'll try to showcase all of that, but just in case I miss anything during filming or in post, I'll include the link to the video in the description. Anyway, back to unboxing parts. These longer corrugated boxes contain pieces for cable management and 3 support plates, and the rest of the boxes contain the feet. With all the parts laid out, a lot of them are laid out outside a frame because I had a tight space for filming, but they're there, so we can get building. All you're doing is attaching the legs to the long and short supporting beams with the appropriate bolts. Here I'm getting antsy and jumping ahead a few steps. At this point, you do not have to loosen these bolts and stretch out the beam, but it's not necessarily problematic either. I'm only mentioning it for continuity's sake so you don't see it open in the next shot and wonder what you missed. Though you wouldn't have missed anything, it's just me being impatient or just refusing to read or view instructions. Anyway, once all the bolts have the legs tightened against the supporting frames, attach the feet and flip the long supporting beam with the 2 legs right side up to install the support plates on both ends, and install the last supporting plate to the short supporting beam. With the frame complete, move on to opening up the desktop box and laying out the pieces. Keep in mind the desk will be upside down for this portion of the assembly. When laying them out, try to anticipate hole placement for the keypad, the cable management shelf, and the 2 included fastening plates that prevent the 2 desktop pieces from shifting apart. So with the 2 pieces laid out, first place a fastening plate over the holes located at the intersection between the desktops and screw these down with the included hardware, preferably with a power drill. Continue by laying the small supporting beam and single leg on the outer edge of the desk and line up the desktop holes through the supporting plate holes and screw it down with the appropriately marked hardware. Oh, and before moving forward, just so you know, the small supporting beam is capable of connecting to the long supporting beam on either the left or right side, meaning you can assemble this desk with either right side orientation or left side orientation, making it very adaptable for current and future setup builds. Food for thought. Now at this point, you'll probably have to loosen those 4 tightening bolts on the small support frame and stretch it out a bit. Then heave the long supporting beam on top of the desktop and install it over the claw of the short supporting beam. After lining up the support plate holes with the desktop holes on one side of the supporting beam, bolt it down, then loosen the 4 tightening bolts on the long support frame, if you hadn't already, and stretch it out until the last support plate lines up with the desktop holes and bolt her down. Once bolted, make sure all 8 tightening bolts are retightened. Then, with the remaining screws the manual instructed you to use, drill through the supporting beam in the appropriate places designated by the shock absorbing washers. You will need a drill for this, as there were no pre-drilled holes for these screws on my desktop, but with a drill it was no problem. Continue installing the keypad into the pre-drilled holes on the correct side of the desktop for your build specific orientation. Find the holes that line up with the cable tray bracket and the control box, which you'll install in the long supporting beam. Next, plug in the power cable, as well as motors 1 through 3. Lastly, cover up those power cables by installing the baffles. Now, unfortunately, the baffles aren't any larger, which means that the corner pieces are exposed and some of the cables are still exposed. I still appreciate the amount of cable management they do provide to both the motor cables as well as the little cable management shelf that attaches to the back of the desk. Still, I will be adding more methods of cable management to this section in a later video. And with that, the desk is fully assembled and it looks awesome. I was a bit worried about the bamboo's tone looking too saturated, but this desktop has put those worries to rest. Not only does it look so much better than Jenna's old desk, but it's far more sturdy too. The old desk would shake and sway from the lightest contact, while the E7L Pro is firmly planted in place. I mean, look at the difference between the two frames. It's no wonder FlexiSpot say the E7 Pro L-shaped desk can support up to 330 pounds. And I don't just mean the desktop and frame, but the motors too. Obviously, I'm not 330 pounds. Less than half of that actually, and yet I have no confidence in Jenna's old desk to attempt this old trick. As for those controls, let's turn to the keypad. The two up and down arrows raise and lower the desk, while the M button is used for programming the presets and child locking the buttons. To lock it out, long press the M button for 5 seconds until it reads lock without a K, and hold for another 5 seconds enduring the flashing light and incessant beeping until the screen reads a height number. Assigning presets involves pressing the M button, then pressing one of the 4 on the right half of the keypad. Another cool feature equipped on the E7 line is anti-collision. There are 3 sensitivity settings and an off option. To activate the feature and cycle between the sensitivities, long press both the up and down arrows simultaneously for 5 seconds until the screen reads A-0 through A-3. A-0 means the feature is deactivated, so to reactivate, long press both buttons again until it reads A-3. It isn't a very user-friendly system since you have to long press both buttons for 5 seconds to drop down each individual setting, so to go from A-3 to off will take about 15 seconds. Still, the feature does work, as you can see from this highest sensitivity demonstration. When it comes in contact with an object, it will stop and slightly raise back up. Meanwhile, this one demonstrates the feature at its lowest sensitivity. So the desk is assembled, but we're not finished yet. I requested a pull-out drawer from FlexiSpot and they sent me this, the S07 Slim Underdesk Storage Drawer. It's a handy little drawer, easy to install, and a bit big. Yeah, but that's on me because I'm the one that requested this, even though it says within the description in no fine print, quote, compatible with most of our FlexiSpot desks, except 24-inch width desks, unquote. I'll give you one guess what I have. Regardless, it still works, just sticks out a tiny little bit. Should be fine. Meanwhile, on Jenna's old desk, I had her PC mounted sideways on the left because her desktop was too narrow. Her Cooler Master TD500 case will definitely fit on the new top, but I'd like to save her some room for a dual monitor setup and her PS5 Slim, so I'm undermounting her PC. The mount I'm using is the MI7171 from my friends over at Mounted. They offer several mounts, but I went with this one for a few reasons. It's rated for up to 44 pounds, easily height, width, and depth adjustable, can even be mounted against a wall, and because I like the look of this one. So let's get to unboxing and assembly. In the box, you'll find a manual, the horizontal arm and hardware, and this metal beefcake. This mount looks so good, and is versatile with so many PC cases. This arm slides in and out to accommodate wider cases and holds them snug in place. It even has rubber padding on the inside to prevent scratches to your case or the tempered glass. Meanwhile, 2 bolts on the bottom of the mount are supposed to tighten to hold that sliding arm in place. But as you can see, one of the bolts has this greasy coating that not only transferred to my fingers, but my mouse pad as well. I'm so glad I thought I had to grab one of my old ones instead of using my wife's. She wouldn't be happy with me. Thankfully, assembly is easy. The only piece requiring attachment is the horizontal arm, and that's accomplished with 2 bolts followed by 6 pieces of foam for more case protection, and most likely to help with vibrations. Meanwhile, the MI7171 offers a simple height adjustment feature. Pull this pin on the outside of the body and it will drop from about 21.5 inches to about 27.5 inches. Alright, now we are ready to begin the installation process. The instructions say to hold the mount up against the bottom of your desk and make markings with a pencil. But this thing is kinda heavy, so it got difficult to balance, plus hold it in place, and make accurate markings with the pencil. So I cheated. And Nintendo helped me do it. I laid out this SNES Classic box, set the mount on top, and dropped the desk down on top of it until the mount fit snug underneath. Then I made my markings, drilled some guide holes with a 1/8 inch bit, Placed 2 screws, hung the mount and bracket over those and slid it all in place before screwing the 2 down and adding the last 2 screws. And the final fit is perfectly secure. Finally, it's time to add my wife's PC and make a few minute adjustments to the sliding arm to keep the PC secured in place. Now, there are some concerns I notice in using a mount like this. First, the base of the mount could block airflow to bottom-mounted intake case fans. Luckily, my wife's PC build doesn't have those and only has a bottom vent for her PSU, which isn't blocked. Similarly, if you don't have a standing desk and you're forced to work with a limited gap between the top of your case and the bottom of your desk, you may be hindering ventilation, which is why I actually dropped the mount down a couple of inches. Another is that the mount itself can support up to 44 pounds, but depending on your desktop, that may not be the case. If you've got a wood desktop or something more durable, you'll be fine, but I'd be a bit worried using something like a hollow IKEA desktop. Lastly, I just wish this mount came in white. I think it would look even better with this PC, but that's a trifle. So now with the desk assembled and the PC mounted, I can finally install the monitors, a bit of RGB lighting, and some peripherals. For this video, my wife and I agreed to keep things cozy but minimal, and that's because she's still working out exactly what she wants to do with the new space. So this video will only feature the first step of her PC gaming setup build. Once she has an idea and we save up some money, then we'll build her dream gaming setup. And of course, I'll share the entire build process with you. After all this time, it's starting to look like a cozy gaming setup, albeit a minimalist one. Now the last thing we need to finish off this cozy minimalist setup is a chair. There we go. FlexiSpot OC6. An excellent mesh chair, great for gaming and perfect for productivity thanks to 3D armrests, an adaptive headrest, adjustable lumbar support, and looks great in any setup. So that's it for this video featuring the FlexiSpot E7L Pro L-shaped standing desk and the mounted MI7171 heavy-duty under-desk and wall CPU mount. What a difference a desk change can make in a setup. I just feel there's so much potential now for this space, and I can't wait to help Jenna build her own ultimate PC gaming setup right here. You can check out the E7 line for your own setup at FlexiSpot.com, and I'll have links in the description for both of these products as well as the OC6 ergonomic mesh chair, and the link to my full review of the chair if you're interested in that. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more tech reviews and gaming setup content like this. Thanks so much for watching.